Okay, this morning we're going to talk about the introduction and conclusions and attention getters. The introduction is the segment at the beginning of your speech that many of you are having difficulty with, and that is because of the thesis statement. So I want you to go back over the thesis statement PowerPoint and review that and make sure that when we get to constructing our next speech, the informative speech, that you look over that PowerPoint as you are creating your thesis statement. Make sure your thesis statement is done in the style of that. And I am always available if you want to email me your attention getter and thesis statement with your three main points. I am happy to review it and let you know if perhaps it needs a little improvement, and I can make some suggestions. That is going to be the key to an A speech. Absolutely. It's not only going, excuse me, I have the hiccups, not only going to help the audience, but it's going to help you. So if you open up the introduction and conclusions and AGs PowerPoint, it's brief, but I'm going to find a speech for you to look at that makes the best use of this section. So on Slide 2, we have the goals of the introduction, which are, first and foremost, the attention getter. I want you to think in terms of the attention getter being the first thing out of your mouth. I don't want you to address the camera with, hello, my name is. Okay? That is not what would happen if you were giving a regular speech. Somebody would introduce you to give your speech. And so they already know who you are. Now you walk up to the microphone and the first thing out of your mouth is your attention getter. And as I've said, this is our safe place and I'm going to sneeze now. Hiccups and a sneeze. I'm sorry, here it comes. It decided not to come, but it will. I can feel it. Anyway, here I am giving a lecture, and I'm having an issue. Okay, so we want to make sure that the first thing we do is get the audience's attention. I really do not want you to introduce yourself at this point. That's not what you do. Don't say hello or good morning. It's nice to see all of you. No. Okay? So after you give the attention getter, and we'll get into that a little bit, we want to give the listener relevance statement, meaning why is what you're going to tell them relevant to your audience? Why is the topic of your speech, the subject matter, why is it important to this audience? Then we get into speaker credibility, which is why are you the one who should be giving this speech? Very important. It lends credibility to you. It lets your audience know that you do have a dog in this fight. You do have some reason to be giving this speech. You're experienced in this area. Or if you're talking about informing the audience about learning the guitar, you are the one to be giving this speech because you have been playing the guitar since you were 4 years old. Okay, so you have 13, 14, 15 years experience in it. As far as I'm concerned, that makes you a credible person to be talking about the guitar to me. Then we go on. This is all the introduction, okay? Then we go on to the preview of the main points, which are in your thesis statement. The introduction of a speech is usually 10 to 15% of the length of your entire speech. So think about it. I'm going to sneeze again. I'm sorry. Think about it in terms of, instead of minutes, let's say instead of 3 minutes, think of it in terms of seconds, okay? How many seconds in 3 minutes? You know? You have the answer? 3 minutes times 60 seconds, 180 seconds. All right. So if you figure that your 3 to 4 minute speech is really going to be towards the low end, 3 minutes, 10% of 180 seconds is 18 seconds. That will help you quite a bit. If you go, and then if it's 10 to 15%, so 15% of that 180 is 18 and 27 seconds. So from between 18 and 27 seconds for the introduction. That means everything: the attention getter, the listener relevance statement, the speaker credibility statement, and your thesis statement, all within that 27 seconds max for a 3-minute speech. This is really important. You can test yourself on this. After you give your speech a couple of times and you record yourself, go ahead and time it. Oh gosh, I spent 40 seconds on my introduction. That's too much for a 3-minute speech. Somehow I got through that in 10 seconds. Too little for a 3-minute speech. I'm not saying it has to be exactly between 18 and 27 seconds, but thereabouts. So you can figure, okay, a 20 to 25 second intro. This is really good help. All right, now we move along to attention getters. Lots of ways you can get the attention of the audience. Lots of ways. Create an opening that will win your audience's attention. And as I was saying, this is a safe place to try anything. Be creative. Don't think that you have to, in this class, that you have to maintain a certain dignity or whatever. Get their attention, but with something that is relevant to what you're talking about. All right, if it's the guitar, you come in with a guitar and you play a riff, okay? Or you say, oh, this is a riff from so-and-so's song, blah, 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 and you spend, 5 seconds on that, all right? That gets their attention. That shuts them up, and then they face you and they want to know what's coming next. You can use a quotation. But introduce the author of that quotation first. As Winston Churchill once said, golf is a good walk ruined. All right? Let them know who said it first, because then they're thinking, okay, they're thinking in their minds, this is Winston Churchill. They can imagine Winston Churchill saying these words. Tell a short story. People love stories. They absolutely love stories. This is something built into human DNA. It's really true. We love a story. We can become involved in a story. We hear the beginning of the story. We want to know what happens next. And after we find out what happens next, we want to know how it ends. You can do something interesting with the story. You can begin the story and not finish the story. And then somewhere appropriate in the middle of your speech, you can add more to the story. Or you don't add any more to the story until the very end. And then you say, well, I was telling you that story about, well, this is how it ended. And then you tell them, and it's either a surprise ending or a touching ending. But people will hang on to your words until you finish that story. And as I always joke with my students, the 3 words that most people hate to see at the end of a story is a cliffhanger episode and then the words "to be continued." I don't want it to be continued. I want to hear it now. Okay? I want it now. That's what we are as human beings. Then we have something that a lot of people want to do, but most people are not successful at it. And I commented on some of you opening with a rhetorical question. Questions seeking a mental response rather than a direct response. The problem with these is that a lot of times the people in the audience don't know it's a rhetorical question. They think they're supposed to answer. So you'll see hands going up like this. You can also ask a question that makes your audience uncomfortable. Here's one that would make them uncomfortable. Raise your hand if you went to church in the last 7 days. Well, this is really uncomfortable. Some people are extremely devout, but they don't go to church. They pray alone in their private time. They don't want people to know about their religious practice. And so some of them will raise their hand knowing that they're lying. All right, you don't want people to have to lie. You don't want people to have to give you an answer that makes them feel socially acceptable. So I just don't ask a question. I don't ever start with a question. Instead of saying, how many of you know somebody who has an eating disorder? Well, you're going to see hands going up. This is what you do instead. Imagine somebody that you know who has an eating disorder. Imagine that person. Just keep it in your mind. Okay? This is what you do. You ask them to think about something or imagine something. Don't ask them. I'm going to instruct you not to use a question, okay, until you get very, very good at this speech-giving thing, okay? Use of a startling fact or statistic. I find this extremely successful, extremely effective. All right, we'll continue in just a second here.